This is Rising from the Shadows. What would your life look like if you stopped second-guessing yourself, stopped playing small, and finally broke free from the cycles that have kept you stuck? Well, that's what the Ignite Momentum Practicum is all about. It's a 6-week transformational coaching experience designed to help you break through people-pleasing, self-doubt, and codependency once and for all. And here's the best part. You get to choose your path. You can matriculate through the one-on-one accelerator. It's private, high-touch coaching, you and me one-on-one. Weekly breakthrough calls, a custom action plan, deep mindset work, and real-time support to help you reclaim your power and rebuild your confidence. Option 2 is the group intensive. This is where transformation meets community. Weekly live sessions with a cohort of like-minded individuals, hot seat coaching, Q&A, bonus trainings, and a space where you're truly seen and supported without judgment. So whether you want personalized guidance or collective energy, the Ignite Momentum Practicum gives you the tools, structure, and support to stop circling the same patterns and start building unstoppable momentum. Ready to take the next step? Schedule your momentum call now at ignitingmomentum.co. That's ignitingmomentum.co. You'll find all the details there. Welcome back to Rising from the Shadows, the podcast where we explore the journey of healing from trauma, reclaiming power, and thriving beyond the shadows of our past. I am your host, Marlon Wesh, and today I'm thrilled to bring you another powerful conversation. Our guest today is Brandi. Brandi is the mentor your soul didn't even know it was waiting for. Someone who sees exactly where you are and lovingly guides you towards where your heart longs to be. She blends playful neuroscience, somatic journeys, and powerful story-shifting magic to help you quiet that persistent inner critic, release old people-pleasing patterns, and step confidently into a life you truly adore. And as you listen now, perhaps you can already feel how warmly Brandi believes in your power to create something beautiful, something that feels like coming home to yourself. Welcome to the show, Brandi.
Thank you.
I love to start all of my interviews asking, can you share with us a little bit of the story of your journey? How did you end up where you are now? Where do you hope to be in the future? And what's your hope in general for this conversation that we're about to have?
My hope in general for this conversation that we're about to have is that people can start to understand that we put ourselves in a trance every day. Every day we wake up and we either repeat what other people have been telling us that either supports us or does not, or we find words in our mind that match up with sensations in our bodies, and we tell a story about ourselves, about what it means for us to be alive and in our lives. The thing, if I could crack open my heart and share anything, it would be the glimmer of delight that you are the one who is telling the story. Your words put flesh on the skeleton of your life right now. And just like when you see a new kind of car that you're like, that is the cutest little car ever. And suddenly you see that car everywhere. This is how it is with us and the thoughts that we choose to hold. Like, as our trident, as our banner flag. And so, what I would encourage people to do is remember that you get to decide what your banner flag is, and you can decide that you are gonna keep telling yourself the story of being purposeful, that no matter what happened, everything can be compost, that nothing has to be lost,
Mm,
that in so many faiths, you were created by a creator who on purpose knew all of these things would happen because it built you into the someone who could do the thing your soul came here for. So for me, a lot what my heart is that people would start to use the it seems like a magic wand, but it's not, but it's our words. It's called spelling on purpose. We put ourselves in trances. We either accept someone else's trance
mm.
or we can decide we're having something else.
Wow, that's way to start. That was powerful. Um, so much in there. I love the conclusion that you came to. I loved when you talked about the word composting because for gardeners, we know that you take refuse of produce or anything that can be composted, and then it breaks down into nutrients that can build something new. I love that image. Um, Tell us a little bit about your story, how you came to that realization.
Well, I'll tell you, I was born of very young parents. So, like, my mama was 15 years older and my daddy was 17 years older than me. So, that is not uncommon. It wasn't uncommon in 1967. It's sure not uncommon now. But uh, an uncommon part to that story is my mother's my first stepfather. We would move a lot and we would play a game called Your Last Name Is, and we would practice spelling this new last name.
Mm,
And so we would go to this new place where everything was a secret. He did things that were illegal, so we moved a lot. But I didn't, I mean, all I knew was we moved and we played a game called Your Last Name Is. So I grew up with young parents exposed to a lot of things that people could consider traumatic, but it didn't. What I see now is that it helped me to see that there's more than one way to see something. Like, but growing up, part of my commodity, because we moved so much, was fitting in, right? The commodity was you slide in somewhere and then you fit in for the small amount of time that you have to fit in there. So, probably on top of being born and raised female, is that getting along, the go along to get along part of it. And so I became, like a lot of folks, really good at being a chameleon, to slide in somewhere and be who it is I needed to be so I could be a part of this. I was also an only child, so I didn't have other, like, there was nobody who had to hang out with me. It was just, it was just me. So I came to rely on a lot on the skills of fitting in, making it so people would think, wow, it's really great to have her around, like manipulating people into needing me. And when I say manipulation, I don't mean like nefarious.
mhm,
I mean, manipulating like a chiropractor manipulates you, shifting things into a structure so that it goes easily, and it went easily for me. It was easy for me to slide in, and perhaps I didn't trust that people would want me around. So I learned how to make them think they needed me around.
mm,
So now all of this too is these are all characteristics that are highly prized by folks um, who would like for you to serve them in a bigger capacity than you might if you had, if you were sturdy in yourself. So I was a people pleaser. I entered relationships and stayed for far too long because, I mean, there was something in me that made it, they needed to they needed to be able to just outright tell me, I don't want you around or for you to be around. Like I just stayed in relationships for far longer than it was reasonable for me to stay into relationships because I didn't have a very solid sense of me. There was a thing in my head about my parents being young that I had to make myself convenient or necessary, that nobody would have chosen me. I just happened to happen, and then it's a mistake. And so now I need to make up and hustle for all this stuff. So, and I don't, that's, we are taught how to do that, and we are taught how to fawn. But when I started to, when my body started to change, but my hormones changed before my physicality changed. So when I went through the mindset shift of menopause, I was so awful to myself. All of those nasty little things that I had said to myself as a people pleaser to keep myself in line, I just turned them on 11. There came a point where I secluded myself from friends and family for about 3 years because I couldn't understand what was happening with me. I would go to a function and I would come home, and then in my head would just be this, you were awful and you said horrible things and they're angry with you. Like it just was. So all I knew to do was to protect other people and myself, remove myself from them. At some point in one of these nights where I would just cry because I couldn't imagine, when did I turn into this awful person? And I must have always been this awful person, right? Because a person doesn't just change like this. Somewhere there was this picture of the old Frankenstein movies, the black and white Frankenstein movies, and you have the townspeople rah, with their pitchforks, and you have the Frankenstein monster, and everybody's afraid, but nobody has a common language to tell each other what's happening. So somehow that showed up in my head, and I started to realize, because I would wake up with the sensation I would call panic in my body, and my brain would reach out to grab whatever story made that sensation make sense. Of course, you would wake up with panic. You were really awful to that person. And by the way, you've been awful forever. Remember that time in second grade? Right, because that's just what a good brain does. A healthy human brain does that. It wants you to not think you're out of your mind. So it finds reasons why this sensation that you call a feeling in your body makes sense.
Mm.
So that's when I started to learn to tickle them apart, the story from the sensation. And I got to start to understand that I could tolerate this sensation in my body when it wasn't tangled up with this story of doom and my being awful. And I believe that for a lot of folks, for a lot of us, we don't do what we desire in this world because we are afraid that we cannot tolerate the sensation of fear in our bodies, but we're so afraid all day long anyway.
Mm.
But we don't use this and turn it towards the thing we actually desire to create.
Yeah, that resonated a lot. I um I have a signature keynote that I give around to, organizations, seminars, and things like that. In it, I talk about a belief of mine that there comes a time when the call to live your life the way it was meant to be gets louder than all of that you're talking about, louder than the exterior noise, louder than that internal noise that keeps you small, that keeps you under control of someone or something to feel safe. It gets so loud that it's not even you want to make a change, you have to make a change. Was there a moment like you that got so loud that you're like, I can't live like this anymore.
It was that noticing where I was telling my out of all of the stories that I could tell myself about anything, the part where I dug through this, I don't know, like, when you go to the beach and then you bring home this big basket of shells, like I
Hmm.
was digging around in this basket of shells for only broken ones. Like, out of all the thoughts that ever were in the world, why would only the ones about my being broken or something being wrong with me or not, my needing to hustle to be needed because no one was gonna, I couldn't count on anyone wanting me, was
Hmm.
curious that I noticed these, these were my defaults where I would grab. And I realized that the place that I did it the most, where I hurt my own feelings the most, was in my relationship with my beloved. Like I would take someone else's words and then turn them against myself, like through what I was thinking he was saying.
Mm.
And so that's when I realized I have got to, because I mean, this is like 15 years ago. So we are not deep in the change your mindset, change your life stuff yet.
Sure.
But it's always been around. Like I've been digging around in all sorts of faiths and doing Byron Katie work and stuff like that. When I was with a coach and I watched this part of my mind when we were on vacation because I hurt myself. Like I was extra harsh with my words to myself when we were on vacation because there's something weird about us being on vacation. There's a like an insecurity thing. Like I would just joke that we would just move. We never went on vacation. We would just move. But
Mm.
there was something about us being on vacation that added extra angst in me. But when the thing that made me know that this was the part that changed everything was when I heard words and then I watched myself. And I could either go towards the path that I use those words against myself and against our relationship, or I decided, what if it means something else aside from what I've been making it mean? What if it doesn't mean anything? What if I don't feed this story anymore? And I watched me be able to change my experience of myself right then.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I thought, like, I'm in my 40s, and I would have told you, the people pleasing and the chameleoning was how I was, and I couldn't be different. And then it started to fall into place when I was learning. It's a new language. It's a new language out of my mouth. It's a new language in my head.
Hmm.
It's a new relationship between this language and these sensations in my body.
Hmm.
I grew up in the period of time where we didn't have seat belts for the longest time. And then secondly, it wasn't the law for the longest time, right? So I come from the people who stop the car like this. They would just
Yeah.
slam their hand across because the babies that sat in the front seat didn't have a thing. So
Oh,
you get used to that. So
yeah.
what I got to start to realize was all that came at us that was handed to us, handed to us from our family, from the mama who taught us to do that, from the society that we were in general, to look at the stories that we tell each other. Like there's some amazing stories that we tell each other that build each other up, and there are some amazing stories that you don't nobody needs to hold people down who keep telling each other the story that they are victims and they are held down people. You know what I mean? When I come from people who all we pass down the story that we can't and we aren't those kind of people, right? Nobody has to hold us back because we are
If
like,
this podcast speaks to you, if you're on the path of healing, reclaiming your voice, or just trying to piece together who you really are after surviving the unthinkable, I want to invite you into a space where you don't have to do it alone. Join our Facebook group created for survivors, cycle breakers, and people rebuilding themselves from the inside out. In there, we go deeper. Weekly prompts, live streams, raw conversations, and a whole lot of people who just get it. No pretending, no pressure, just truth, growth, and community. Search Rising from the Shadows, The Path to Reclaiming You on Facebook, or hit the link in the show notes to join the community.
we are sharing, and what we think it is that we are encouraging each other, but sometimes all we're doing is doing the crabs in a bucket thing, making it so. I have a friend whose family is a hard-working, blue-collar, people who come home and need to take off their boots and their clothes outside because they're folks who dig and are, doing services like that. So the hardest thing for my friend was they that's not what they desired out of their heart. What they wanted to do was build the software and they had these huge ideas, but their family, they couldn't talk like that around their family because their family doesn't trust people with money, doesn't they don't trust people who don't get dirty for work. And
Mhm.
like they share this stuff around the table that maybe fortifies them and that they feel good about the work that they do, that they support people in amazing ways. But what my friend got the impression was they couldn't, if they searched for anything different than that, it was because they were better than their family would think. And so they didn't progress, right? So in this family, so when I asked, so what are you going to do, babe? Like, well, I mean, I'll do this for a while, but are you going to wait until your family's dead until you do the thing you know you mean to do? Well, they wouldn't like it, and it's family tradition. Like, so we have all this, and honoring your family is beautiful. And sometimes the thing that would honor them the most is to do something different.
Yeah. You said something earlier. You said two things. You talked about codependency and you used the word fawning. Um,
Yes.
all of that really resonates with me. And I forget who I was talking to the other day. Um, and I refer to myself as a recovering codependent. And what I was explaining to the individual was that narcissistic traits and codependency are opposite sides of the same coin. They are both manipulations. On one end, it's a destructive manipulation to, siphon resources and, emotional, spiritual, financial resources. And on the other hand, is to control how you're attached to people by becoming palatable. And the way to do that, we often do that, is fawning. Can you talk a little bit about fawning and how that shows up in people that have codependent traits?
Well, I can tell you how it shows up in me. Because, it shows up in a lot of different ways in other folks. And a way that I like to say that I have retired from being codependent, but often it seems that I'd like to consult. It seems as sometimes I want to slide back into consulting just a little. But ways that I've noticed that it happens with me is when I fawning. And actually what maybe right now where I'm at in that, how when you're learning to shift a habit, usually you go from one side of the pendulum to the
To
other.
the
We
other, yeah,
rarely we rarely swing from the
to the
end
middle.
right to the middle, right? So a lot of for me, I notice the pull in my body. to fawn. I notice that it feels like a pull in my body to make things okay and okay, to make it so I don't have to keep thinking about how other people are thinking about me. Um, Most especially, I work in corporate America, and we are in a very friction, push-pull sort of season again in the job that I do. And one of my superiors is I noticed that they run hot and cold, which is
Mm.
how they do their thing. And what I get to remember, because it's all an invitation to a different conversation with yourself, what I get to notice is when I want to make that about me, and then I'll remind myself what's mine, what's not mine.
Say that
They are
again
not
about the what's mine and what's not mine.
right. They can be disappointed in me. Um, and I still and they get to be disappointed if
Mm-hmm.
something that I have done has been disappointing. They get to be disappointed in me. I also get to be disappointed in the
Mm-hmm.
situation. But the part where I want to swoop in and make how they feel, make their disappointment go away, that is not mine.
Mm-hmm.
What is mine is how do I tend to my own disappointment? Notice if what I want to do with my own disappointment is throw it into shame for myself or blame for the other people, or just notice that I just feel I had an expectation. It didn't work out. And this is what it feels like in my body. It feels kind of like a rock in my belly. And I start to change it from the feeling words, the stories about the words. I'm disappointed in the way she was, and this is what she could have done differently. I just go straight into my body. And so my body can metabolize it. It doesn't have to get stuck in my body. But that part, learning what is yours and what is not yours, is powerful. And learning how to tolerate when you know you can change what they're feeling, but you let them tend to
Yeah.
themselves because they are also an adult. That
Despite the way they may act.
right. Or how you want to get in there and fix it for them quick,
Yeah.
because then you know the quick ways to do it. And here's another thing too that I think people like they don't look as a people pleaser. Um, we can point, but I'm an empath. We can point to all of these things. Here's what those things really are. I have enhanced ability to put out emotional vampire things and suck on your energy because you know I'm not doing it to try and feel more joy from you, right? We do this thing when we call ourselves empaths and those things. What we're tending to do is suck the do
Mm.
not like out of other people when we could just as easily be in tune with their joy, but that's not
Yeah.
like it's like we just want to finish the rest of the bag, the chips, because
Mm.
we already have a bellyache and it's something weirdly satisfying about. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's like the relationship in that book, The Giver, right? He had all these memories, and the baby that he was taking away from the commune, he would pass on the happy memories and take on the memories that hurt. Um, and it was sacrificial of him, right? And that was the role of the giver, to sacrifice their well-being, their happiness, to bear all the hurt so the rest of the world could be free from that.
Right.
It's a really profound a profound book or story. You know, I've been having so many conversations around shame, and I truly believe that if you can manage to handle shame, there is nothing that can control you. Absolutely nothing. Um, Last year I read that book, The Courage to Be Disliked, and I like how the philosopher in there states it right, like separate yourself from the tasks of others. Like that's not my task. You're upset about that? That's on you. I'm upset about this? That's on me. And I'm not going to participate in you handling your task, and I can't expect you to participate in me handling my task. And the way that I got to that point, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, was when I accepted that I had a right to anger, that people didn't just have a right to be angry with me or be disappointed with me, and I just had to take it. Like I also, as a human being, traveling this plane, experiencing things as a human, also has feelings, also has joys, also has fears, also has tears, and I get to experience all of them. um and once I realized that, I was able to and it's funny, it's like I would never get, actually it helped with anger, because I wouldn't blow up anymore, because I didn't have that resentment tucked in my body. And it's so amazing to kind of step out of your body and observe the changes that you've made. The other day, I was interviewing a consulting firm, and the consultant that did the intake gave me the lowdown, what the capabilities were, etc. um, and told me that she thought the senior partner would be the one to handle this. And I was like, great, sounds good. And then when I got the email from the admin, they emailed me and said, so and so is going to be handling this case. And it was like a junior person. I'm sure they were smart as a whip and like no issues at all. Went to a great school. They have great achievements, but they were new to the firm as of 2022. And in my mind, I was like, well, at first, oh, they know what they're doing. I should just like trust that they put the or the right person, right fit on the team for me. And I was like, no, because if something doesn't go the way I wanted to go, it's not their fault, because I didn't speak up and say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with that. Um, and I just posed it as a question. I said, is there any reason why somebody more senior is not handling this project? And the admin says, let me talk to the managing partner, and I'll get back to you. And it seems so little, but I was so proud of myself. So proud of myself. And every time I do something like that, it becomes easier and easier and easier. Um, what are some moments where you've observed yourself in situations that prior to uh, your um, um, your healing journey would have wrecked you, but now with what you know and what you feel in your body, you're like, wow, I can't believe I was able to do that.
Just like that story you just told, the ask is the win.
Mm,
Like realizing that the ask is the win. Like people think that the yes to the ask is the win,
right.
but they don't realize how many people don't even ever just ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in corporate America, and we have a million, like things aren't going to change because they have to get it signed off by everybody and right. It's just they've they've looped themselves into nothing ever changing. But that doesn't make me stop mentioning, hey, here are the different ways that we could make it not such a bottleneck. Do this
Mm-hmm.
here. And there are other people who say, I don't even know why do you even bring it up? Like, because it's a great solution. And every time it comes up, I'm going to bring up the solution, and they get to hear it because the first 87 times it's just no because it's inconvenient for them.
Hmm.
And then there's going to come a point where it touches their circumstance and they're going to hear something different. So don't not ask.
Hmm.
There was another time just a few months ago that this, it had just been so tight at work, and there were just this, sometimes things can be bad for a while, and it's just you're just used to the push,
Hmm.
and then you can watch it coming. The crest of the wave is coming, and what I knew was the crest of the wave is coming. Things are going to start sweeping back up because there were hard conversations that were going to come around again. And this time, what I knew to do was, I know this is coming up. Here are Here's everything I want to have in this conversation and how I want everyone to be heard. What I'm able to do now is not get stuck in the story and the swirl of a fear of a thing, and be able to look at it and look at what's happening now. I don't, I'm able to not be caught up in the past or be swirling out about a future that I can. And even when it's hard, I still like being me because I
Mm.
know that this version of me, baby, she wasn't around last year.
Mm.
And all of everything that we've been through have made it so we are more sturdy here.
Yeah.
And that it's not as scary to get it wrong because that you move fast and break things. And that's how you figure out what's not working.
Hmm. Hmm.
Fuck around and find out is also what they
Right?
call
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I love that. I um obviously, if you were a people pleaser, codependent, you're doing it to stay safe in your environment. And to stay safe, that means there are people or circumstances that aren't safe for you. But this is the way you can survive in them. Obviously, when you start the path of healing, it forces us to reevaluate the people in our lives. What were some of the biggest shifts in your relationships as you healed, and how did you approach setting boundaries to protect your peace?
Well, one thing that's very helpful is the mine or theirs, right? That what we talked about before. That belongs to you. This belongs to me. Starting to understand who there are people in my family that there's nothing that we have in common aside from different bloodline stuff.
Hmm.
But as part of just being people who would be in each other's lives, we're just not those people. Um, there have been relationships that I realized if I'm not hustling to keep them nurtured, they just don't happen. And the beautiful part about noticing that is you get to decide if you decide you want to keep investing, but
Hmm.
then notice where you're disappointed at you're not getting the change. And then you get to decide, well, is this what I want to keep investing in? Because usually that relationship comes with a story about you being a good daughter, mother, auntie, right?
Loyal. And
Right. That you need that story. You like the story of yourself when you tell it about them. But here's what I think people don't realize. You get to tell yourself a story that you are worthy and purposeful because you're here and breathing. I used to, and even now I notice the crunch. I get a little spun out about the world, feeling like I can't control it. And then I'm like, no more plastic in our house. And so now I'll go get a bunch of glass jars and get rid of all the plastic and stuff. So I'll do this thing where I seem to have this weird purge thing. And now I'm like, no more paper products. And now we only have foldable things. So, um, but I have been driving down the road and I'll notice that my eyes are scanning like I'm looking for somebody who needs help. And I will say out loud to myself, baby, you don't need to find somebody who needs help to tell yourself the story that you're good and you're kind and you're loving. So let's just stop that right now. But here's the thing. When I'm afraid of the way it feels inside me when I say that I am a people pleaser or that I'm an empath, like if I can't tolerate,
If you're listening to this and you've got a story to tell, whether it's your personal story of healing and reclaiming your voice or rising from rock bottom, or you're a professional with powerful insight into trauma, identity, resilience, or transformation, then I want to hear from you. Rising from the Shadows is more than just a podcast. It's a space where truth is honored, power is reclaimed, and stories heal. If you have something to share that could empower others to stop shrinking and start rising, I'd love for you to apply to be a guest on the show. Just head to tellmystory.risingfromtheshadows.com to submit your application. Let's rise together, one voice, one breakthrough, one story at a time.
just noticing what does it feel like to be that in my body without the story? What does the sensation feel like in your body? You can start to make more room in your spirit so that there's more room between the thing that happens and the way you wish you would or would not respond. When you can start to notice, oh, this is that part where my stomach clenches up, and what I want to do is rush in and fix things so nobody has to feel bad. I don't have to feel weird that y'all aren't feeling great. Learning how to not tolerate. Because tolerate still is kind of like, that's fine. It's fine that you're here until you go. And that's not what I mean, because sometimes these sensations, like I'll wake up in the mornings with these sensations that I used to call terror. But now, here's what I know. In the night, my body is trying to work stuff out. And
Yeah.
so I've got hormones. And this is probably a huge bunch of cortisol, cruising through. So I wake up and then I notice, oh, my hands are my hands are sweaty and my heart's beating hard and I can hear far away. So um I think I got lost.
That's okay.
Oh, the stories. So when I can be a person who gets to notice the sensations in my body apart from the story, because a pit in my stomach and a tight throat and sweaty hands is fear, but it's also like new love. So, context. Is
Yeah.
it the story of new love, or is this the story I'm telling myself of fear? I had a girlfriend whose mama would say, Cassie just thinks that she's in love with those boys, but she's really afraid of them.
Because it's like the same feeling in your body. Yeah.
Right. She's just telling the story that because they're pretty, that it's love.
That's so funny. So, obviously, I speak for a living, and I have been public speaking since I was a kid. Started out like in church, so I have a real comfort with it. But of course, I have nerves every time I do it, but it doesn't feel like a hindrance to me. And it's because the context, just like you said, I have made the context that those nerves means that one, I know this is a meaningful thing that I'm doing. And two, I know I'm going to knock this out the park and I'm ready to go, And someone else would interpret that as stage fright, but for me, it's not. For me, it's like I care about this and like, come on, we've done this a million times. Let's fucking go. Um, Context. I love that. It makes all the difference in how we interpret the signals that our body is sending it us.
Well, and also like with the context thing, that for me, that's where the storytelling comes in. Like what story am I telling about this? Um, Fella and I this time last year were up in Wisconsin, and I was taking a shower in this little cabin that we rented, and it felt really slick. Like I was not, and I kept thinking this shampoo is really like it must have a lot of silicone or something in it. I'm not digging how it feels. And then I saw there's a water softener. Oh, there's hard water here.
Yeah.
They need water softener so there can be any bubbles at all.
Right.
There was no chance I was going to get out of there with flesh on my bones if what I needed was for it to feel not slippery,
Yeah.
right? The context. I was clean. That wouldn't be how it felt to be clean in my shower, but
Mhm.
that's how it felt to be clean in that shower. So being able to take the context and then get okay with what it feels like in my body, because this doesn't feel how it usually feels. But where can I put my attention next so that I know that it's purposeful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like instead of just keeping and then reminding myself it doesn't feel good and then reminding myself of all the other times that it's felt nasty when something's felt slick, just this
Mhm.
tidal wave of more story. But yeah, context is everything.
After all that you've been through, after all the growth that you've done, what is it that you believe at the core of your being?
That I chose to come here to be human right now. Like that, of course, I'm here in this body at this time right now. Like that there's no mistake. And the part where I don't pay attention to being rooted into being purposeful, that everything that came before I get to offer to people as a way that they can see that they can set themselves free from the part where they continue to keep themselves imprisoned by using people's words against themselves.
Wow. This conversation has been incredible. And I know everyone who's listening right now, they're walking away with so much insight and inspiration. Um, Tell us a little bit where people can catch you, connect with you, and support your mission or use any of your resources.
So I'm on TikTok is where I'm most active. I have offerings. I have one-off 1 hour face-to-faces with folks. Those are called sliding door sessions. They're on a website, Brandi L. Moran, all one word, BRANDILMORAN .com is where you can go and find different offerings that I have, meditations that are for free. Um, I'm creating an app for people who are desiring to step away from over apologizing for
Mm,
everything. And what it's going to be is it's going to have parts where you can know that here's what's coming up in a day, and you're like an athlete, this is a place where what I tend to do is I tend to just disappear. And so here are different places that I want to practice saying a new thing, or
mm,
maybe it's afterwards I rushed in and I apologized for things that had nothing to do with me. And maybe now I want to practice. How would I do that in a do-over? And
mm,
so this app is going to have what you say out loud. I'm not available for that. What you
mm,
say inside, I get to decide what I am and not available for. It'll tell you why it makes a difference in your head and your heart. And then it has different ways to look at it. Like if you're being a person who is a quantum leap person, like do you pull in parallel lives? Here's a way to look at it. Do you tend to look towards the superconscious, that you are a part of all of one? And so how can you look at it with the superconscious, and also adding a layer for faith folks? Like do you want to see what immortal love actually has to say about you, and that you are not just created to be a warrior, but first you're a kid? Like, so pulling in all of these other different ways to look at that so they can practice
That is
using new words.
fascinating. That is so fascinating. Because that is what I did uh, for myself. I would practice certain phrases, and now I don't need them anymore. It'd be like one of the ones that I would say all the time is like, that's not going to work for me. Like that doesn't work for me. You know, what other options do you have?
Right.
That helped me with customer
Right.
service.
And
But
it
that's
just is
fascinating.
so, it's powerful to be able to just say words, end it in a period, and then let the other person do, like, not need to go into the over explaining and all. It's such a,
Mhm.
how much more energy and money would we have if we weren't leaking all of this stuff around our edges?
Right, right. Oh, I love that. I can't wait until that comes out. And for everyone that's listening, I'm going to put all those contact spots that Brandy mentioned in the show notes, so you'll be able to readily click on that and find them. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights with us, Brandy. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Rising from the Shadows. As
Thank
always, I
you.
want you to remember that healing isn't the absence of shadows. It's learning to thrive in your own life. So rise today, rise tomorrow, rise always, because the shadow doesn't stand a chance. Until next time, take care. If you're an event organizer, HR leader, or educator looking to bring a powerful voice to your stage, someone who speaks truth, ignites momentum, and empowers your audience to rise above what's held them back, then I want to talk to you. My keynote, Rising from the Shadows, is more than a talk. It's a transformative experience that shows people how to stop shrinking, start healing, and stand fully in their story. I've lived it, I teach it, I walk people through it. So if you're building a lineup of speakers who don't just talk but move people, head over to marlonwesh.com to create something unforgettable for your audience.